hey, we can make a lot of money here. Microsoft is a company that thrives on profits. They want to make money, right? So again, he's suing them. Based on how the company was started, he may have a case here, but that is what is going on right here with this headline today. And it's honestly going to be really interesting. And by the way, this is another reason why I'm concerned about the future of AI. I think AI is fantastic. It's going to change all of our lives like the internet did, but there will be bad actors, right? There will be bad actors. And by the way, I'm not saying Sam Altman is or isn't, or that Microsoft is or isn't, or anyone is or isn't, but I'm telling you out there that when there is massive money to be made, people will do things that they shouldn't do that are bad for humanity to achieve those goals of profit. All right, next up, NYCB drops 30% after management found material weakness in the loan portfolios. This within a week of the Federal Reserve stopping its emergency lending program, the Bank Term Funding Program. Now, just something kind of comical on this, guys. Look at the symbol that they use for this, BTFP. Now, what do we know about this one? BTFD. Right? So this was a loan program that was meant to basically give banks a lifeline of quick chart here, guys. I just want to show this again. I know I explained it earlier this week, but I think it's worth explaining again. Here's your reverse repo, right? So basically, this was the normalized reverse repo. You saw a little bit between, basically after the financial crisis, it started to uptick, kind of came back down. Then this is what happened. And again, what I pointed out to you guys prior was that essentially the stock market topped out right here. Okay, right here. And again, you may not be able to see that color. I'm going to flip it over here. Right here is where the stock market topped out. And this is where the stock market in October of 2022 bottomed out. Now, I was thinking about how to best explain reverse repo. Think about you have a bucket of water, right? So I'm holding a bucket of water in front of me, and I have this massive sponge. And so again, when this goes up, this is the sponge, right? I put the sponge in here, and it soaks up all the water, and it's all, basically that's all the liquidity being sucked up. So when this was going up, liquidity was being sucked up like water into a sponge, and it was out of the bucket. The bucket was empty, and therefore the markets went down, right? But in home prices, right? And for some reason, it doesn't want to let me draw, but there we go. Nope, still doesn't want it. That's okay. But the point is that as prices have gone up sky high, that was because of low rates. Now, prices for homes are still sky high, and they're coming down a little bit, but not much because there's so low inventory. So no, it's not normal. It is not normal to people to have home prices way up here and still have interest rates up here as well. Because again, I was just telling Ben in the trading room here, as I was saying, listen, when I moved to New York in 1989, my parents, we bought our first house. That was it, you know, and again, I think I was in third grade at the time when we moved to Long Island, New York. And this was right outside of New York City, right? So I mean, a very, high value area. And our house was probably, I think my parents paid, I don't know, $130,000. They got a mortgage for $150,000. The point is, at that point, yeah, mortgage rates were pretty high, but not nearly was the home value that high. So if they paid, I don't remember what their mortgage was, to be honest, but let's just say it was 7% or 8%. Well, when it's on $130,000, that's much more manageable versus when that same house now is going for, it's probably going for $700,000 at these points, maybe $800,000. A lot different there when, again, you're talking about real income and real wages not really rising and getting ahead of what inflation has done. So again, these little tidbits, super, super important for us to understand. All right, next up, Dell jumps 22% here, larger. Much, 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 much larger to the downside. So now listen, that's in the case of it breaking to the downside. Same thing could happen to the upside, right? So we could ultimately break to the upside. All right, so a couple other things to go over here on the charts. And again, we'll just continue to keep an eye on things. Bear with me as I just take a little quick drink there to keep my throat going here, as again, powering through these live sessions with you guys. But here's your Tesla chart. Now, Tesla's been in this longer term channel as well. Again, we just talked about Musk suing OpenAI and Sam Altman. But really, when you look at this chart, there's a couple characteristics. The first thing that strikes me is you potentially have an inverse head and shoulders here. Now, this would be the bull case. So there's a bull case and the bear case for both charts. And I think it's important to understand that, right? So you could look at this and say, wow, could this be an inverse head and shoulders? And the answer is, yeah, it's a possibility. This would be your neckline right here. It would require us to break above this level. But if we break here and here, that would be incredibly bullish for Tesla. All right, now the bear case, and again, it's important to look at both sides of the coin here. The bear case is we've hammered on this line here, here, and here, rejected, and now we're making a little bit of a short-term. First bounce is the biggest, second bounce is usually the smallest, and then just like a ball, it usually gets smaller and smaller. Same analogy, right? You drop a ball on the ground, the first bounce is the biggest, then it goes down and then smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Same thought process. Charts work the same way. So you have the big move, right? The big bounce, or the first one, the second one smaller, the third one, and then look, right there, and then the beginning of a break. Considering Goldman took this off the conviction buy list, very likely this is now a bigger breakdown candidate. Targets we've talked about before, probably looking in this 165 level first as a first target. All right, let's touch base on Dell here. If we flip to the intraday Dell chart, look at this move. Now, this is incredible, guys. I mean, this is an epic move on Dell. The stock closed yesterday. It looks like around $93 to $94. It's at 122. That is a huge move. You do not see moves like this in normal markets. Great earnings, don't get me wrong, but it's the AI narrative that is driving this thing to the upside. Now, again, when I bring up the daily chart, it becomes pretty tricky to find a level here, right? Because again, you know, if we even go, let's even go to the monthly. This is all I could find on the monthly to try to figure out today. They're only trading at like this area here. We're not even back to these lows. As a technician, if I'm going to trade this, it needs to flush to this low. You give me that tail low at the 200 even number, I might get interested as a day trade, maybe even a swing trade. Besides from that, it's not a significant enough move for me to get involved. All right. Lastly, NTAP, beautiful move here, trading at 106 after closing yesterday at 188. Just quickly flipping to the daily chart. Actually, I go to the weekly chart. Let's just zoom out. And if we look at this, is there any level of interest? All right, so there is one. There is a possibility here. So what if we connect these highs here? All right, and again, let me look at that intraday price. So intraday price is at 106. This upsloping trend line on the daily chart is at, now it's at 104, so we're above that, which means that level gets canceled out. And by the way, what you guys are seeing me do is, excuse me, essentially figure out my levels for me as a trader. You're watching my thought process. And that's really what I want here. I want you guys to kind of get an insight into what goes through my mind. So when I look at this and I'm like, oh, price is already above it. Okay, well, then this is no longer. All right, bear with me, guys. It's been a rough week with the kids being sick, and then they get me sick, and you know the whole rigmarole if you have kids. All right, Bitcoin. Let's talk some Bitcoin action here. All right, so Bitcoin, again, continues to stay relatively strong. It did pull back yesterday off the recent highs, but if we zoom in, it's basically recovering that today. Now, there's two things you're looking for on Bitcoin. We know the resistance level is 65, right? So 65,000 at that. And we know 69 is your secondary level. So the big things you're looking at here are you starting to make the consolidation? Like here, we consolidated and then we had another leg up. And then here we consolidated and then had another leg up. So is that what we're starting here? Now, two candles doesn't make a pattern, by the way. This would be what I would consider an immature pattern. But if by mid next week we're still going like this, then you have the pattern formation for another leg up. Essentially, it's digestion. So let's say you just ran a marathon. So here's a marathon. And what do you do after a marathon? Most people, if those of us that run it, I don't run marathons, by the way. But what do? You take a breather, you rejuvenate, you eat, you get more strength, and then you can run your next marathon. So that's essentially after. Thank you, buddy. So listen, it's been an amazing week. Don't forget, guys, we will start filling this out next week, and probably after next week, every day we will be spinning it with prizes. I mentioned TradingView signed on. Kitco, by the way, has signed on to donate 10-ounce gold coins that are Bitcoins. It's the coolest thing ever. They're like as big as your hand in terms of silver, pure silver. And again, they have a Bitcoin on them. It's so, so cool. And I thank them for donating that. And we have Luxalgo donating a year of Luxalgo. These prizes, my goal is these prizes need to be anywhere between $250 to upwards of thousands of dollars and given out every single day. Like my Winning Trader series is going to be on here on one of these things. That's $5,000, guys, at least. All right. So again, giving back. It's the wheel of appreciation because you guys seriously rock. I love the comments. You guys are the kindest in the world. My best group here. We'll call you guys the G Unit. I thought about that. I thought that was pretty cool. But in any case, thank you guys again for your love.